How's it going, everyone? This is the LG QNED 85, and this will be a complete settings video for it. It's going to take a while, and we're going to start with some of the more basic stuff. So, showing here how you can go in the audio settings to enable the eARC if it's not enabled automatically, which, at least when I had this TV, the early firmware, it wasn't doing it automatically, so I did have to actually go into the settings and enable it there. Alright, from here we're going to go through a few other basics and a couple little tips here and there. But starting out, let's go into the devices menu here. And if you go to TV management, you can toggle on and off that Quick Start Plus thing. But you can also go to TV information. You can see how many hours are on the TV, your internet information, Dolby Vision version, all that kind of stuff there. You can also see from that menu, like connected devices would be like if you have a controller connected to it or Bluetooth, remote, things like that. Energy savings, we want to have that completely off. And then we're going to go to system. Here's where you can change your language, set up timers, safety stuff, things like that. But if we're going to go into the home settings here and turn off the home promotion. Personally, I like to disable as much of that stuff as possible, the Live Plus and things along that nature. I just want it to turn on to my HDMI source and not have really anything else in the way when I turn it on. Alright, when you're setting your TV up, I do suggest going to support, checking to see if there's an update, and getting the latest version of the firmware before moving on from here. And then last thing before getting to the settings, if you keep pressing the mute button over and over, you can pop up this menu and disable the Show LG logo thing. Alright, now that's done, we're going to start with SDR picture modes, and I like to use the ISF dark and bright, but it really doesn't matter which, if you use cinema or filmmaker or ones like that. So you want to go into the aspect ratio, make sure it's on original with just scan on. You want to do that for every source. Then under your brightness, the lower you can have it in SDR, the better your blacks are going to be. So setting it to 15 for panel brightness, it's going to give you deeper blacks, and you're still around 180 nits. Contrast, we want to turn that down to 80 if it's not already, just so there's no clipping. And for this mode, we're going to use gamma of BT1886. And now we're going to look at the local dimming. So in SDR, we don't have to worry about local dimming limiting our brightness. So you can put it on high, which will give you the best blooming control, especially if you're going to be using subtitles at all. And then we're going to go down to color, and we're going to go to white balance and just make sure that it's on warm 50. And also color gamut is supposed to be on auto detect if for whatever reason it's not. The ISF mode here defaulted to 0. That's not really good. It should be at warm 50 to be closer to D65 white point. Alright, then under the clarity menu, a lot of this is going to be your own personal preference and what kind of device you have hooked up. So if you want to put any of the noise reduction stuff on for a cable box or something, that's up to you, that's fine. The smooth gradation I do recommend putting at low. And then for motion, this is definitely personal preference. I find that a lot of people like de-judder at 2. I don't like any soap opera effects, so I turn all this off for myself. Also, some people like the cinematic movement setting. You're just going to have to play around with these a bit and see what you like. Real cinema, you would want to leave that to on though, but whenever you activate true motion, it will gray it out, but real cinema will stay on even if it says off and it's grayed out. And then lastly in that menu for motion was Motion Pro. That's the black frame insertion. A lot of people won't like that, especially because it darkens the image and causes flickering. Now under the AI settings, for SDR you don't need any of those, at least our accurate SDR mode, so we're going to make sure all the AI settings are off. And then we're going to go and we're going to pick a brighter mode and make a day mode for SDR, or use this for sports cable and such whenever there's lights on. So it defaults with the panel brightness at 100. Again, if you can pull this down, you'll have better black levels. So try to match it to your room and what's comfortable. There is no right answer here for that. Contrast will clip if it's at 100, so we're going to pull that back down to 80. And then for gamma, for a brighter room, you can use 2.2. If it's a dark room, you use 2.4. BT1886 on this kind of splits the difference a little bit. It's closer to 2.2. But for this bright room mode, we're going to use 2.2. And if your room is very bright, you can use 1.9. And then the same thing for the local dimming again. We're going to leave this on high. And while I definitely would not recommend using the dynamic contrast at all, some of you might like it So if you're gonna look at it, you can go ahead and look at it and see what it does, but I wouldn't recommend it. Now back in the color menu, we are at warm 50 on this one. Don't know why it was that way. It was just set up that way. It's weird. But anyway, it should be at warm 50. Smooth gradation again, I'm gonna put this at low. And then the motion, completely up to you. Now if you are using something like a cable box, you can turn on super resolution and turn the sharpness slider up to 20, because the sharpness slider becomes like a control for super resolution when you turn that on. So it would have to be at 20 for it to really be active. That's if you have a cable box and it doesn't look very good and it's low resolution. Now under the AI service menu here, because this is the day mode, if you want to turn on AI brightness, you can. That'll help lift shadow detail a little bit when it's really bright using the light sensor on the TV. However, you don't really need to either, because we did put the gamma to a better bright room gamma. Alright, now we're going to be in HDR. You can do this either in filmmaker or cinema mode. They're going to be the same, you pick. We want to start by putting our black level at 52, and then dynamic tone mapping for our accurate viewing night mode here, we're going to have off. And then when it comes to the local dimming in HDR, well, now you have to decide, because the lower you set it, the brighter the image can get. If you put it to high, it's really going to impact the brightness of your small HDR highlights. So we're going to put it to medium. Now over in color, we're just going to verify that we are at warm 50 for the color temperature, and then same stuff under the clarity menu. Put your smooth gradation to low, your motion settings however you like to have them, and then we're going to hit apply to all inputs. And now we're going to switch this to cinema home for day mode. Like I said, if you wanted to do cinema for your night mode and cinema home for your day, you can do it that way if you didn't want to use filmmaker. For this one, again, we're going to use black level 52, and I'm just showing here that the dynamic contrast on this, it looks really weird when you use it. I don't recommend it. You can try it, but don't recommend it. For our day mode, we are going to turn on dynamic tone mapping though, because this will allow the average picture level to get brighter in most content. And then with the local dimming, putting this to medium or high does crush the darks a little bit. That's why we're putting that black level on 52. So cinema home defaulted with the color temperature at warm 30, so we want to change that to warm 50. And then you guessed it, clarity menu, same thing, smooth gradation low. Set your motion how you like, apply to all inputs. Alright, since this mode isn't our accuracy mode, it's just for viewing in a brighter room. If you want to use your AI settings here, go ahead. AI genre will affect things like motion and color a little bit, so I recommend that one being off. AI Picture Pro is really picky about what content it does work or doesn't work with. You can try it, but the AI brightness in the day mode, that's fine. Alright, so now we're going to switch over to Dolby Vision, which doesn't have a filmmaker, but there is cinema and cinema home. So that's going to be our night and day modes. And like I said, for memory and just ease of use, you could have done the same with HDR10. So same thing here, we're going to put black level at 52. And there is no adjustment for tone mapping in Dolby Vision. So we're just going to go to our local dimming. And again, we're going to pick medium. However, if you ever find a different content that you want to play around with the local dimming setting, feel free. As you go higher or to high, like I said, it will darken some of the highlights and make them not as bright, but you will have less blooming. So medium, kind of a good middle ground there. Alright, in Dolby Vision, the color gamut's grayed out on native. It's supposed to be, just double check that it's on warm 50 for the color temperature. Under clarity, same as all the rest, smooth gradation to low, you set the motion how you like, and then apply to all inputs, and you're good to go. Alright, so for cinema mode, all the AI stuff should be off. A lot of it's not even selectable, but we definitely want it off. And then we're going to go to cinema home for our brighter, more day mode. So by default, cinema home is going to have a raised EOTF, which will increase the average picture level brightness of the image. So that's what makes it the day mode. Only a few things here to check. Pretty much it's all going to be in place. We are going to put black level to 52 again. And then we're going to make sure that the local dimming, we're going to put it to medium. Again, if you want to mess around with this, especially if you use subtitles, you might want it on high. But if you want the brighter HDR highlights, put it on medium, and then low would be even the brighter one, but then you get more blooming. So warm 50, and then smooth gradation low, all the same stuff as before, apply to all inputs, and then with this one, we actually can use the AI settings. So this is how you'll get Dolby Vision IQ, is if you use Cinema Home and you turn on the AI brightness setting. That's again, it'll use the light sensor of the TV to see how bright it is in your room, and then it'll brighten up some of the shadowy areas depending on how bright it is in your room. Alright, now I'll just toggle this between Cinema and Cinema Home a couple times. You can see the difference isn't drastic. It's just the way that it is. So if you do need really bright in a bright room, just watch stuff in SDR and you can get it brighter. But before we move on, we're going to touch up game mode for Dolby Vision. Even though I don't recommend the Dolby Vision game mode, we're going to do the same thing. Black level 52, the local dimming on medium, make sure it's on warm 50, and then apply it all inputs, and you're done with the Dolby Vision game mode. But I do recommend just using HDR10 gaming instead of Dolby Vision gaming. Now for the rest of game mode, now we are on HDR10, so I'm on the Xbox. We're going to put the black level to 52, and then the panel brightness, contrast, all that, leave that alone. Local dimming, we're going to put it on medium, and it's currently set to HGIG, but I'm going to demonstrate why on this TV we don't want to use HGIG really, as HGIG actually tracks too bright on the EOTF, and dynamic tone mapping on actually does work better with this particular TV. So our color depth at 55, that's where it should be. Color gamut should be at auto, white balance, warm 50. Pretty much all of the processing stuff here is going to be turned off. The super resolution with the sharpness slider, if you're on a Nintendo Switch and you want a little extra sharpness, you can use it there. But that's because it's 1080p and not 4K. Anything that's 4K, the super resolution won't do anything. Under the game optimizer menu, there's various things here. The only thing we're really going to do is just turn on VRR. The FreeSync Premium, if you're on Xbox, there's off, high, and wide. If you set your Xbox to 60 Hz, you would use high, and if you set it to 120 Hz, you would use wide. And considering I would definitely recommend putting your Xbox in 120 Hz mode, we're going to set this to wide. Now you can change the color menu if you want, and then if you go over, up and over to picture, you can make some visual adjustments or pick some different profiles. I do not recommend using the different profiles because even if you were to set them to black and white stabilizer 10 on everything, they still do other stuff and they mess with the color gamut. So you can play around with them and see if you like what they do, but if you're going for accuracy, don't use them. Now if you are on PC, you can set this to a wide aspect ratio of 21:9 or even wider at 32:9. And then that'll give you black bars, and then you can position where the image is on the screen. So now that the TV's done, we're gonna go to the Xbox settings here, and what we want to do is make the black screen all the way black, so just go all the way darker until it doesn't go any farther. And then on the next page, so with the TV set to HGIG, you would just set this until the blocks disappear, which is going to be 800 nits. However, the TV is capable of more than like 1100 nits or so. So we're not actually going to follow the normal way like you would do on a LG OLED here. So instead, we're actually going to turn the dynamic tone mapping to on, and then we're going to set our parameters on the game console as well as individual games with sliders to around 1100 nits, and that works a lot better. And I even compared this with my G2 with HGIG on, and using dynamic tone mapping on almost always matched how the G2 looked with HGIG on, whereas HGIG on this TV is overly brightened and doesn't look right. So when you're in this menu on the Xbox, pull both triggers and both bumpers at the same time to pull up that menu in the top right, and you just want to set both of the white screens until it says 1100 for both, and then on the TV turn dynamic tone mapping to on. Now if you're on a PlayStation 5, what you want to do is turn the white screens all the way down, and then count your clicks going up and count 16 clicks on white, and then turn black all the way down. We can see this TV supports everything, so Dolby Vision, 120, VRR, all of it, it's all supported. However, Dolby Vision Gaming is not good. So we're going to turn Dolby Vision Gaming off, and then everything else can be checked. And then I don't recommend watching Dolby Vision or really any apps or streaming services on a console. We'll talk about that in another video, but you can turn off Dolby Vision, have everything in HDR10 here, and just have everything else going. So 4K, 120 Hertz, VRR, and local dimming works in game mode to full effect. It's not like reduced local dimming or anything, how it is on some other TVs. Now for SDR gaming, what we're going to do is we're going to pull the brightness down again, because it's SDR. The lower you can set it, the better your black levels, but I know a lot of you like to have a bit brighter in SDR, so just set it how you want it. And to eliminate clipping, we're going to drop the contrast to 80. Gamma, it can be either 2.2 if your room is brighter, or BT 1886, really not that much dimmer, so I just say use that. Local dimming, we're in SDR, so we're going to go ahead and set it to high. Okay, and then under color, we'll just verify that it's in warm 50 and auto color gamut, which it is, so don't need to touch anything. And then clarity, again, it's all grayed out, so nothing to do. So I did load up Fortnite in SDR, and I found that putting the brightness to about 70 actually worked better for my room with a few lights on. And then your room, if it's really bright, you can go higher. If you have a darker room, go a little bit lower. But for SDR gaming, maybe start at 70. Alright, now I'm going to switch over to Destiny, which does not use the system level HGIG. So messing around with all the brightness settings here. And again, I find that putting the peak brightness to about 1100 and then having dynamic tone mapping on was the best setting. Again, compared to my LG G2 with HGIG on, which I know is accurate. And again, the HGIG mode on this doesn't measure well, and it doesn't look right. It's overly bright. And now I can toggle it a few times and show you how that looks. And at the same time, you get to see that this TV really is good for gaming. There's really nothing to complain about for its gaming performance. And as far as LCD-based TVs out there now, this is the only one that has full working local dimming support with 4K 120 Hertz, VRR, Dolby Vision, all of it. So even if I switch over here to Sea of Thieves, again, messing around with HGIG at the 800 setting, at 1100, 1000. I've tried every combination. TV just is most accurate and looks best when you turn dynamic tone mapping to on and you set the game or console to 1100 nits. And that's going to wrap it all up. So hope this helps you out. I know I've been getting a lot of requests for this video for quite a while, so hopefully you're all happy now. And enjoy the TV, it's really great. So thank you all for watching. I hope to catch you in the next one, and leave a comment below and let me know what you think. Thanks.